Okay, I think we've gone live. Good morning, everybody. I hope that we are live and that you can hear us and see us. I'm Amanda from the Holistic Equestrian, for those that don't know me. We're joined this morning from Equestrian Balance. We've got Sara with us, and she's going to be having a chat to us. And I'll handball over to her, and she can do her own introductions in a second. In the meantime, for those that haven't used StreamYard before, on the link to the event, it says about giving StreamYard permission so that it shows us your name if you leave a comment in the chat box. If you haven't used that link, don't panic. Just let us know your name if you do leave a comment so that we know who that we're talking to, because otherwise it just comes up as Facebook user and we don't know who it is. Throughout the session, if you want to add a comment or ask a question, we have got the chat box. Just pop it in there and we can have a look at it as we go along, or at the end, or just when is appropriate. And I'm just wondering if anybody's joined us, if you'd like to just say hi and just let us know that you can see us and hear us. That would be really, really helpful. There is a chat box there. Is anybody there? Okay, so I'm going to handball over to Sara, and just very quickly. So, my experience with Sara, and I have to kind of share this all the time. So it was the first person that I had a positive reinforcement lesson with my mare Lucy, and back then I was still doing things in a more traditional way, shall we say. And I always find it, when I remember things, I always think of Sara saying, well, you can't, it's very difficult to mix both. And I can remember always kind of going, no, I can do it. And yeah, and when I finally kind of got that into my head and moved fully over to, for me, using positive reinforcement, that was where things really started to change. So I'm always very, very grateful for your help and yeah, just supporting me with that. Yeah.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you for sharing that story.
But yeah, over to you, my dear.
All right, thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. So my name's Sara Jackson, and as Amanda said, so my business is called Equestrian Balance, and I'm a coach for people wanting to build a better relationship with their horse. And the way that I help them do that is through teaching them about equine body language and how to respond to build your relationship, and also training your horse using positive reinforcement. So that's what I'm all about. And today I'd really like to talk about 3 ways that you can get your horse to trust you. So I'm just going to dive right in and start off with really, I guess, what is trust? So what do we think about when we think about trust? So I looked up the dictionary definition, because obviously I know what my opinion is. But so the Merriam-Webster dictionary says it's to be able to place confidence in. And absolutely, I want for my horses to have confidence in me. But I kind of want more than that, you know. So I want them to have confidence that I'm going to be predictable. But you can be predictably unpleasant, right? That's not going to build the kind of trust that I want with my horses. So for me, the definition is more than that, or the working definition that I'm going to be using today is more than that. So yes, I want them to have confidence I'm going to behave predictably, but also that I'm behaving in a way that makes them feel safe and understood. So that's what these 3 techniques that I'm going to share with you today are going to help do. So the first one is that you want to be the predictor of good things. And so I'll explain why that is. One of the things that our amazing complex brains do is makes associations. So we link circumstances with people, smells with locations, people with emotions. Our brain is constantly making these associations, and it's the same for horses. And the associations are especially strong when strong emotions are involved. So whether that's a pleasant emotion, like joy or excitement, or an unpleasant emotion like fear or anger, those associations are going to be really strong. So that's why, you know, if you get called into the boss's office, for example, you might be filled with dread. And it's not because the boss necessarily told you what was going to happen when you went to the boss's office, but it's about what happened last time that you went to the boss's office, right? And, you know, or an alternate example is your phone rings and it's your best friend and you've been really looking forward to talking to them. You're going to be filled with excitement and, you know, feelings of pleasure because you really enjoy talking to your friend. And it's the anticipation of those experiences really is bringing up those emotions. So the same thing happens with horses. And so whenever we are with our horse, the things that we predict, and I guess more specifically, the emotions around those things get associated with us. So if we only ever predict dinner time, you know, the horse that's going to be a pretty positive emotion. The horse is probably going to come running up when they see us coming. But if we predict hard training sessions in a poorly fitted saddle, then that's going to be, you know, associated with potentially pain, or potentially separation from their companions, things that the horses don't necessarily enjoy. And then that's going to mean that horse is more likely to turn around and walk the other way when they see you coming. And this used to happen with my first horse. There was a period of time there where the way that I was riding her was quite heavy on the aids, shall we say. And, you know, I was learning dressage, and that's what we're doing. And she would see my car drive up the driveway of where I kept her, and she would turn and go the other way and go the furthest corner of that paddock. And it would break my heart, you know, like that. It was just, you know, horrible. I knew that something was wrong. Like that wasn't the relationship I wanted, but I didn't know how to fix it. And, you know, eventually I explored using lighter aids and different ways of interacting with her. And there was, you know, an amazing difference. All of a sudden she would see the saddle come out and she'd come over and to be caught. And so I did turn that around, which was great. But, you know, it just is an example of how that can happen. And that when they're doing those things, you know, it's a clue for us to think, what are we predicting? What am I predicting for this horse? And kind of investigate, what can I change that might mean that I will predict something pleasurable for my horse. So the key to building a great relationship really with anyone, you know, not necessarily just your horse, with, you know, anyone in your life, is to be the predictor of things that they like. So you need to firstly know what they like, and that might change day to day, and it's certainly going to be different from, you know, horse to horse and person to person. There are going to be nuances there of things that they like. But examples for your horse is getting, you know, being able to graze fresh untouched grass on the side of the driveway or something on the way as you catch them out of the paddock. Or giving them a treat like a carrot or something after you catch them or after you ride them. Using positive reinforcement, of course. It's a training method that tends to create very enthusiastic horses, very enthusiastic learners. But even without that, you can still make a really positive association with your horse. So giving them a hay net and whilst you groom them, you know, having them stand in the sun and enjoy a hay net, or a snuffle box. And if you're not sure what a snuffle box is, it's basically a box of goodies that's lots of different smells and flavors and things that they can explore, all put into a cardboard box. And that is, you know, delicious for them to explore and enjoy, but also to use a lot of their different, you know, their senses and their senses of smell and their senses of taste, really to explore that box. So it's a good enrichment activity as well. So yeah, taking your horse out for a walk on the trails, if that's something they enjoy, possibly with a friend, another horse, so that they, that they're not separated from their friend in order to do that. That can be something really pleasurable, but it's really something that you need to be guided by your individual horse as what's going to be pleasurable and enjoyable for them. So my challenge for everyone is to find something that your horse especially enjoys and to do more of that with them. Because if you can be the predictor of things that they enjoy, then they are going to really enjoy being with you. So that association is going to rub off on you. So they're going to have pleasurable experiences when they're with you, so you become the predictor of pleasurable experiences. So then they see you coming and they're like, oh wow, pleasurable experiences are on the way, I'm going to go and see my person. And so that's one way that you can build trust and enjoyment and in your relationship. So I just want to have a little note that please don't worry or be surprised that a lot of these ideas that I've suggested involve the horse eating. Horses are evolved to eat for 16 to 18 hours in every 24. So they've got a really strong drive to be eating. And so helping to meet that drive or meet that need can really help them feel satiated, relaxed, comfortable, and it is a source of pleasure for them. So please don't stress about that. Use it to your advantage. so that's my point number one, which is to be the predictor of good things. So number two is to make whatever you ask your horse to do really easy for them to get right. So that's not to say that we never ask them to do complex or challenging tasks. It just means that we build up to those tasks. So each little step is really easy for the horse in the moment that we ask them to do it. So we're not setting them up to fail, really. We're setting them up to get it right and to know the answer kind of before we ask the question. So when we're training, we really want to be telling our horse, yes, you got that right. Yes, you got that right. You got that right. Yes, 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 you are awesome. And so the horse is like, oh yeah, I'm getting it right. I'm getting it right. I'm getting it right. Now, obviously I'm a positive reinforcement trainer. But one of the things that's evolved out of positive reinforcement training that really is relevant regardless of the training method that you're using. So if you're using negative reinforcement or positive reinforcement, is something called errorless learning. And it was developed by Mary Hunter and Jesus Rosales Ruiz. And it's basically where we set up the training situation so well that the learner knows the answer before we ask the question. So there's two kind of parts to it. So firstly, the environment is arranged so that the most obvious thing for the horse to do is the right answer. So let's say that we want our horse to stand quietly when they're tied up. And normally they sort of fidget and they move around and they're constantly kind of pulling at the rope and that kind of thing. So we want to change the environment to help them stand still. So what could we do? Well, the first thing we could do is make sure that we ask them to do this. We're going to put them in an environment that they're comfortable in. So we're not going to take them somewhere where they're not comfortable and then ask them to stand still. We're going to do it somewhere where they're comfortable. And that's typically going to mean that they can see their friends. If their horse friends are going to be close by. So, and it's somewhere that's familiar. So we're going to start there. And we want them to stand still and relax. So if we pop a hay net there, that's going to keep them busy, give them something to do. And that eating, so either grazing or eating hay, has a really relaxing effect on horses. So eating hay is just going to really help them to relax and to calm down and just to stand there and be calm and do the behavior that we want, which is to stand still and eat calmly. And the other thing that we would probably want to do is not ask for them to do that for very long in the first instance. So we maybe do that for 5 minutes and it's a lovely, nice, calm, quiet session. We put them away or we go and do something else. And then gradually we can increase the duration, but we're starting from a point where they're getting it right. So So that's an example of setting up the environment so that the most obvious thing for the horse to do is the right answer. Now, the other part for this errorless learning piece is that we're going to train the building blocks before we try and put them all together. So the horse has got all of the pieces to the puzzle before they're trying to build the puzzle. So, for example, let's say that our horse puts their butt to the side when we want to get on the mounting block, or when we get on the mounting block. So first of all, we want to make sure that there's no pain associated with being ridden. That might explain that behavior. So we want to make sure that they're not trying to tell us that there's something wrong with or something unpleasant about being ridden that they're trying to avoid. So if it's just a misunderstanding, we want to confirm that it's just a misunderstanding about what they need to do there. So we need to check all of that out. But from a training perspective, if we want to train them to be standing straight at the mounting block, so first of all, we want to make sure that they're comfortable being close to the mounting block. So they're really comfortable hanging out near the mounting block. Then we could train the behavior of standing square. So we could make sure that they know how to stand still and have us walk around them, wherever that might happen to be. And then we can use the environment to help them to stand square and not shift. So we might put some poles on the ground. And first of all, can you walk between these poles, these two poles on the ground? So we get that behavior of, can you walk between these poles? And then we put the poles next to the mounting block. Can you walk between the two poles when they're next to the mounting block? Or we have another set of poles. And then the set of poles that are away from the mounting block, can you do your standing still behavior in between the poles and have me walk around? Now, can you do that standing still behavior in between the poles next to the mounting block? Have me walk around. And now, can I incorporate walking around and stepping up onto that mounting block? So we're building, this behavior, but we're using the poles to help guide the horse, but we're not just putting the poles there and expecting the horse to know, oh, that means don't step over the pole. We're teaching the horse that those parallel poles mean you need to keep your feet still and stay square, if that makes sense. So that's kind of a way that we can do that setup, use the environment, but also have these building blocks so the horse is kind of knowing the answer. And that's not the only way, obviously, to train a horse to not swing their bum out, but that's just an example that I've chosen to kind of put together for you of one way that you could do it. So we're never going to be 100% errorless 100% of the time. But if we strive to be, it's going to be so much better for our success in training and also for our relationship with our horse, because our horse is going to be getting the right answer all the time. So we aren't going to feel the need to correct any wrong answers, which is really, really key. And the second thing is our horse is going to be getting the right answer all the time. So they're only going to be getting reinforced. They're not going to be getting any punishment. And so when I use the word punishment, I don't necessarily mean beating with a stick. I mean it in the scientific sense, which is where it's kind of, you might think of it as a correction, where we're adding something unpleasant to get a behavior to stop. So, for example, a pop on the lead to stop a horse from pushing into you, or a smack with a whip if a horse stops at the jump. So the aim of that kind of thing is to stop the horse from doing it. So you're adding something unpleasant to try and stop a behavior that you don't want. So that's the technical definition of a positive punishment. So we really don't want to do that with our horse. So that's if we are trying to build a really great relationship with our horse, adding in punishment is really going to make that difficult, because that's going to bring in unpleasant emotions. So remember, in the last point, the horse is always making associations. So we really want those associations to be positive associations and not unpleasant associations, or pleasurable associations, not unpleasant associations. So we really want to avoid using punishment. And so that's why working towards an errorless learning approach is going to set us up to do that. Because if our horse is getting the right answer all the time, it's going to be very, very easy for us just to say, yes, 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 that's right, and for those emotions to be positive or pleasurable. So I don't want to dwell on the dangers of punishment, but I just do quickly want to say that there can be some fallout from using that as a technique. And it's really something that we need to be aware of. It's like an emotional fallout, because obviously we all choose how we train, and absolutely no one's perfect. And most of us, I'm sure, at some point in our lives taught to use punishment as part of horse training, because they're big and scary and dangerous and all of those reasons that people give. But what I want you all to be aware of is that it can create some unwanted things, some things that can damage our relationship. So it can make a horse aggressive potentially. Some horses won't stand for it, and it can make them aggressive, which obviously then is very dangerous. It can make them really aloof, and that's really going to damage a relationship. So they can be very difficult to catch and that kind of thing if, being caught predicts that, the punishment is going to be occurring. So, and they can actually become a bit depressed. So, and what we call shut down. So that's a really poor welfare state. So I don't want to dwell on that, because I want this to be what we can do and what, and a really positive thing about ways that we can improve our relationship. But I just think it needs to be said so that people are aware of it. So I'm going to move on now. And the third point the third suggestion that I have to build your horse's trust is to invite your horse's cooperation. So it's really easy just to walk up to our horse and start doing stuff. Adjusting rugs, grooming, patting, tacking up. It's kind of a one-sided thing though. And I find it does wonders for our relationship if we just take a moment to invite our horse to greet us and to participate in the process. So it does two things. It invites him to participate, and then it kind of slows us down, and then we find ourselves starting to watch their body language more and respond more and listen more to what they have to say. And so then we're building the partnership. Then we're building more of a conversation with our horse, and that's, for me, where the gold is, right? That's where it all becomes, it feels magical, right? For me. So, I want to share a video now and kind of talk through how some of the ways that we can do that. So some really practical, really simple suggestions, and it seems like nothing much, but actually it's a big deal for the horse, and it does quite an amazing lot for your relationship with your horse and for your horse's trust in you. So the first thing that I want you to try is just literally, when you go up to your horse, let them touch you first. So hold out your hand, so the back of your hand, say, and just sort of in front of their nose. So it's easy. They don't have to come far, but let them be the ones to make the contact with you. And it's huge, right? Because it's putting the decision to make the contact in their court. And so they have that little bit of control and that little bit of choice about whether or not you have an interaction and or when it occurs. So just doing that is a really big deal. So it's really important that we allow them that choice. So if we're going to offer our horse and give them the choice that if they choose no, then we honor it and we, go away and do something else, come back in 5 minutes or so and have another go. So that's a really important part of it. But this does wonders for their relationship. So I've got a video that I want to show of doing that, and then also offering some grooming and how we can look at their responses to the grooming, and then respond to their signals in a way that's going to build our relationship. So it's really simple. But Amanda, if you could bring that up, awesome. So here's me offering my hand to. I'll just pause that for a second. Go back. Sorry, I'll stop it a little bit here. So here there's a couple of things here. So firstly, I'm over the other side of a gate and using a gate or a fence like this. It's called protected contact, and it's a really amazing tool for helping to build a horse's trust, because they can feel safer. And that might seem like a bit of an odd thing to say for your horse to need to feel safe from you, but being on the other side of the fence can give them that little bit of confidence that they might need to make that first attempt to connect with you and that kind of thing, if that's not something that they're used to. So it's a good way to start. So here I'm just offering my hand and I'm letting Evita touch me and make that contact. So here she does that. And now she's normally a super itchy horse. So I'm just going to offer her some scratches. But see how she turned away then as she broke the contact with me? She wasn't too fussed on that. So I've tried somewhere else. I'm trying her bum. And here she's really not keen on that either, which is interesting. Like I said, I was like, oh, that's interesting, because you normally do enjoy a scratch, but it's great for us because then we get to see what, and no, I really not enjoying that so much looks like. So she's kind of quite still. She's got her ears a bit stiffly back. So yeah, she's paying attention to what I'm doing, but she's not really engaging in the process. And she did a bit of a tail swish just a moment ago. So I'll play that again so you can see that. So I'm scratching. So she's quite still, does that tail swish. And there I just take my hand away. So I'm like, yeah, she's not real keen on this. I'm going to just give her a break, see if we can reconnect. And I'm going to try somewhere else and see if I can get a different response. So we'll play it again. So I'm just waiting here, seeing what happens. So she's doing a head turn there. So that's a calming signal. So that's her asking me just to pause and wait. And so here she offers to reconnect, which is lovely. And there I'm going to try doing something a bit further up her neck. And so now we see the difference. So this is a horse that's enjoying the scratching. So she's really enjoying this location here, up closer to her pole. So you can see she's engaging with me. She's curling in towards me. She's wanting to connect with me, wanting to touch me. So that's really cool. So that's really the response that we want to get when a horse is enjoying. So if we're not up near their head, if you're scratching on their withers or further down their body, you might find that they lean towards you, or you find that they're really leaning in, and you can feel that pressure against you if you're scratching or grooming them in a spot that they really like. So that might be something that you'll notice on different parts of the body. So here what I do is something called a consent test. So that's another thing that I'm going to recommend that you try. And so basically it's a check that they are enjoying it. So what we do is we say, okay, I'm scratching you, or I'm grooming you, but I'm not necessarily quite sure if you're really loving it. So I'm just going to stop and see what you do. So when I stop, do you come back and ask for some more? Or kind of and that you might find that they sort of lean up against you and put that spot back into your hand, or they might, turn around and try and connect with you again with their nose. But basically they're trying to indicate to you, yes, please, some more. And so that's the response that we're kind of looking for for them to say yes, and for you to continue on. they just sort of stand still and they don't really respond to you, and they don't really do anything, or if they give a calming signal, or if they walk off, then obviously that's a no. Thank you. I've had enough for now. So we'll see what Avita does. I'll just go back slightly so you can see I'm scratching her, and then give her a little stroke, and then I just stop, see what she does, and she comes straight back and says, oh, a little bit more, please. So I oblige with a little bit more. So that's just, I just wanted to share that so you can get a bit of a visual on some of these techniques. Really simple, but really powerful at building your relationship, because you're asking for your horse's opinion and you're listening to their opinion, and it's just huge for building your relationship and for building their trust in you. So that was my three things that you can do. So the first one was to be the predictor of good things. The second one was to make whatever you ask your horse really easy for them to get right. And the third one was to invite your horse's cooperation. So I really hope that that is helpful for all of you listeners to build your horse's trust and to build your relationship with your horse.
Thank you. That was fantastic. And I think for me, and the sort of changing the way that how we see our horses overall in terms of that choice and that cooperation and inviting them to join us, but also accepting their no's. And I think that's a really big shift. So, you know, if you're at the gate and you're wanting to stroke them and pet them and I love you, and they kind of going, not today, that you kind of go, oh, all right then, that's absolutely fine.
It's really hard initially. Yeah.
Those initial, like for me now, it is just it's just normal. But I know I'm quite conscious when people watch me that they're kind of going, well, what are you doing? You've gone in with a head collar, but you've come out with no horse. So you know, what's kind of going on? But if they, you know, when Lucy used to be in a very large paddock, it's a bit different now. She's on a track, so she's kind of really just there now. But you know, she'd often sort of see me and come galloping. But the times that I would go in, or I'd sit with her and then say, do you want to come in? She'd always have until we got to the gate to kind of go, yeah, actually not today. And she knew that. And very rarely did she get to the gate and kind of go, no, and wander off. But she might get to the gate and go, oh, actually, I want a drink now. And she'd go and get a drink. And then she'd come back to the gate, and just allowing them the space to do that. And for our human brain to kind of go, no, come back, or I need you to come in, or I've got to do this, or why don't you like me today? And those kind of things. And just once that and that definition of trust, it really just puts a different perspective on it. And we all, regardless of what training we use or what we do with the horses, we all want a relationship with them. We all love them. We all, you know, want to be with them. And it's sort of the icing on the cake when they want to be with us and they have that choice and they still choose to be with us. I think, brilliant. And finding what they like. So is it a scratch here or a scratch there, and where's their favorite place? Sometimes people aren't aware of that favorite place on their horse being scratched. They're just like, oh, I always scratch here. Well, do they like it? I don't know. Why don't you try here or try there and just see the different responses? So having that choice. And some just don't like to be touched. But it's just a different way of thinking and being, and making it as simple as possible as well. And how you were saying, breaking things down, it's always the right answers. Whatever they offer us, it's good, because they're offering something, so they're trying. So rewarding them for that try, because they don't have to, if they, you know, depending on what we're doing to them. But it's always, yeah, it's good. So no, there were 3 really simple kind of dismisses the how important they are, but when you break them down, they are simple things that we can do, and make that relationship better. Yeah. Has anybody watching got any questions? I can see there's some people watching as live. You can ask Sara any questions in the chat box, and for anybody that's watching on the replay, you're more than welcome to ask questions there as well. Sara's in the group, so she can respond and help you if you get stuck on any of those points. Or if you want to share any footage or photos of you trying some of these things, then I know I'd be honoured to see anything that you do. So you can always share in the group. Yeah, I might see if I can get some footage of me doing some of this, and especially at the minute Lucy's a bit off, so she's giving a lot of off signals. So yeah, I might see if I can get some footage too.
Oh, fabulous. I'd love to see some people trying these ideas out. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to do the enrichment box ideas. For some reason, I've never got round to doing them. So I'm gonna try and kind of, that's my goal, I think, to try one of those with her. And see how she responds.
Fabulous. Yeah, they're super fun. Yeah. I have got a video on how to make one of those as an example, which I can link up if you want, just so people have got a bit of a reference there.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. And can you tell us a bit about I know that you've got some resources on your website, and you do have a course available that I think, do you intake throughout the year at different points? And do you want to tell us a bit more about where people can go if they want to know a bit more about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is probably the best place to start. So that's www.equestrianbalance.com.au. I do have a Facebook page as well. That's Equestrian Balance Perth on Facebook, but there's links from the website as well. And then, I do have some freebies on the website. So lots of articles, and also a free guide, 11 ways to get your horse to love being with you, which kind of builds on what we've talked about today. So head there and get that for yourself. And and check out the free resources there. But I do have an online program, so it's called Learn to Speak Horse, and we go through all of this, and particularly the calming signals and how to respond to all of our horses' body language, what it all means and how to respond. And also we talk about our horses' fundamental needs and how to meet those, and how to meet those needs, and how to also once we understand those needs, it's a lot easier to interpret our horse's behaviour. So it's really important that we understand what they are, so then we can sort of interpret why our horse might be behaving the way that they are and do something about it to help them out. So that's a pro. You can read about that on there. So we've got it's currently underway. And I will be opening it up again probably in August this year. So it's a 2-month program, so probably August, September this year. So if you are interested, get yourself on my newsletter, and then you will hear about that and when it's open, and you can sign up for that. So that's probably the best ways to find out about me and what I'm up to.
Fantastic. We've just had a comment from Lisa as well, and she says hello. She's got no questions at the moment, but she's enjoying listening. Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, fabulous. Thanks, Lisa.
Lisa's in your program, isn't she? She did she get a scholarship? Was it
Lisa S? Yes. Yeah. So there's 2 Lisas actually, which is tricky. Yes, Lisa S got a scholarship. She's doing amazing things with her horse Chizzy. So
Yeah, I saw one of her videos that she put on her Facebook page, calling him in, and he, you know, cantering over and stuff, and just some of the really good things that she's got going on at the minute. So yeah, well done, Lisa. You're doing a great job there. So have you got time, and if you think it's appropriate, do you want to tell us a bit about your background and how you came to be doing positive reinforcement and looking more at calming signals and that kind of stuff? If you feel happy to do that.
Sure. Yeah. So there were the turning point, I guess. I think I've always been looking for something more. Like, I tried so many different training methods with my horses over the years, and I guess I was always looking for that sort of magical feeling, you know, the galloping on the beach with no tack, kind of the horse in perfectly listening to you, this magical bond, like that kind of a feeling. That's what I wanted, right? And I just kind of never got it. I tried all sorts of different things, and you know, I came from a sort of a traditional pony club type background, and I went over to the UK and worked at a dressage yard there for a while, and you know, so it was kind of that really heavy handed kind of dressage that, you know, I wouldn't do now. But and then I got into classical dressage after that. I read really widely from lots of different trainers and experimented with lots of bits and pieces from them. I explored natural horsemanship for a little while, and that's kind of where I had this turning point with my mare Misty. And so she was my first horse, but this was, you know, we'd been together for probably not quite 20 years at that point, but a while. So she was older, and I'd been working with natural horsemanship with my other horse, and the things that I'd been learning led me to believe that she was being rude, and that the best way to fix this was to put her in the round pen. So I did that. And on this particular day, and so I sent her in the round pen, and I wanted her to turn across. And so, you know, the idea is you go kind of and stand closer to the edge, and then they turn across to avoid you and change direction. But she didn't get that that's what was meant to happen. She just was like, oh my God, the gap has just gotten really narrow that I have to go through. So then she ran faster. And so then I was trying to get closer to the edge, and she was trying to dash through this narrower and narrower gap, and it just was going wrong. And then anyway, finally she turned across, and but she didn't change direction and continue around the round pen. Because she was turned across, she was going across the round yard. She decided to jump out, or to try and jump out. And what happened was she caught her front legs on the top rail of the round yard, and she spun over the top, like what you would, you know, one of those horrible cross-country falls that you see. And she landed on her neck, so with her head like to the side, she landed on her chest. And she was literally, her whole body kind of piled up on top of her. And I heard this crunch sound, and it just gives me chills to this day. It's horrible. And her whole body was kind of piled on top, and she just went completely still. And I had this horror that I'd killed this horse that I love. You know, she was my 14th birthday present, and I'd loved her my whole life. And then I just done something that had, you know, I thought killed her. And it was just a horrific, like the emotions, I can't even describe. It was just such a horrible moment. And it was probably 30 seconds or something. It went on, and I ran across and got out to her, and she just sort of got up and trotted off like nothing had happened. So then I was like, you know, shaking and the whole bit. And that was that. We were done for the day. That was, you know, I was thanking everything that she was alive. And but it was, yeah, this horrific experience. And later that day, I was sitting in my kitchen trying to design a round pen that a horse would not try and jump out of. And like I was trying to figure out, how can I build this round pen so that a horse won't try and jump out of it, A, and B, if they did, they wouldn't get out. It would keep them safe and inside the round pen. And then I was just like, hang on a minute. I'm trying to design a barrier to prevent my horse from trying so desperately to get away from what I'm doing with my training that they're prepared to put their life in danger, like literally, to get away. Like, this is not right. And it just kind of, the penny dropped really for me that this was just not the right way to be training. This wasn't at all building the relationship that I wanted and the whole goal of what I was trying to achieve. This is not the answer. And that's when I really went looking. And so that's when I really was like, and I stopped doing any training with the horses at all, until I was like, no, I'm not, it's not working. I'm not, obviously I looked after them, but I stopped training and I started looking to try and find something different. And I ended up I read so many different books and looked on the internet and all the rest. And I eventually read Paul McGreevy's book, Equine Behaviour for Veterinarians and Scientists, I think it's called, which is, a textbook. And there was a section in there on training and all the different sort of training methods that there are, really, and the different ways that horses, and I was fascinated. And I went through all the different, and I'm like, okay, I've tried that. Okay, the thing that I haven't tried, the obvious one, is positive reinforcement. So I'm going to try that, see where that leads me. And so then I, got a whole load of books on positive reinforcement and watched a whole load of videos and started to do that. And, pretty much just didn't have anyone to help me because there wasn't really anyone. And so I was just kind of, doing what I could out of the book, following the instructions in the book. And so I made a hell of a lot of mistakes, of course. But regardless of that, I suddenly had 3 horses who were standing at the gate going, pick me, pick me, pick me, and wanting to be the chosen one, And I was like, oh, there's something in this. This is much more the feeling that I want to have, right? And so that was the beginning, really, of the positive reinforcement journey. And the behavior stuff came from that, because learning to do positive reinforcement really well involves really changing the way that you train, changing the way that you structure a training session. And like I was talking about in the presentation, more setting up the environment to help the horse to get the right answer and those kind of things. But as part of that as well, there's so much of reading the horse, because it's very easy for a horse to get over aroused with food and to get very, very excited about the food. And so, and that's not what we want. We want the horse to be really calm and relaxed and cooperative. And they're obviously, they are cooperative if they are excited, but that it can be a bit too much, and it can, they can get easily frustrated and things like that. So there are things that you need to manage with positive reinforcement, but a big part of that is being able to observe their body language really well and respond to it early enough, really, to stay in this nice, calm place. And so, and I just was hooked on behavior and body language. And so, I'm actually studying as well at the moment to become an equine behaviorist. So that's sort of the next move here. But I'm currently doing my exams and assessments for that. So watch this space. But so that's all about helping change unwanted behavior in horses. So I'll be able to consult to assist people with that. So if you've got behaviour that your horse is doing that, you know, you don't like, or it's dangerous, or, you know, it's inconvenient, you can't get them on the float, or they won't, you know, pick their feet up for the farrier or what have you, those kinds of things are what I'll be available to help you with. And so that's very exciting. But yeah, so the learning about equine behaviour has just been ongoing for me, and yeah, I just love it. I find it so fascinating.
Yeah, it does get addictive once you kind of start making the small changes. You kind of go down this whole different rabbit hole, I suppose, of just, and it does, the penny starts to drop. The feelings that I suppose you think of as a little girl when you want your pony, all kind of come into play, and everything just kind of fits in. I'm not saying it's easy and it's a smooth transition and there isn't any hiccups along the way. I mean, it took me long enough, and I'm sure other people that have kind of transitioned over, there's, you know, you're learning something, so you do make mistakes, but horses are very forgiving, and you can just see the, I don't know, for me it was the missing link. And with Lucy, I still think now, if somebody tried to do the things with her that, you know, they want her to do using more traditional methods, she'd fight to the death. She's just not a horse that you can kind of tell what to do. She just wouldn't. And that cooperation and the relaxation that you're looking for, and I always say to people, it looks boring, and it should look boring. It should look like paint is dry, like you're watching paint dry. But when you're in that and you're doing it with your horse, it's everything, and there's so much going on that maybe other people don't necessarily understand or acknowledge, but when you've kind of made that shift, there's a whole lot going on, even though it doesn't look like it. It's great. I recommend the shift over to everybody.
Absolutely, I second that.
So I'm just going to double check in with everybody, and just make sure that there isn't any more questions. We'll pop in some links as well, so that you know where to go if you want some more information from Sara's website and things. And yeah, I think, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I don't think so, no. But yeah, and like I said before, I'm really looking forward to hearing from the listeners about how this has helped you, or to actually see some videos of you doing some of this stuff with your horses. It'd be fabulous.
Yeah, I think there'll be more people watching on replay. I think 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, bless people, it might be. But yeah, okay, all right, I'm going to just end our session now, guys, because I don't think there's any more comments or anything coming up. So thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate your time, and any questions, any comments, add them to the group. Don't ever be afraid to reach out and ask for support. We're definitely here. So we've got somebody's just said fascinating. So I'm not sure if you were here at the beginning, but we're not sure the name. It just comes up Facebook users. So thank you very much for your comment. And yeah, we're really glad that you found it interesting and fascinating. And that's the idea, just to start planting a seed, and just looking at things just a little bit different, doing little bits that are different with your horse, that are going to really improve that relationship and helping your horse feel safe, I think. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.